Yep, I think we're up and we're ready to go.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon to you. Welcome to Black Buzz. Welcome to another Monday afternoon, and we have a special guest with us today. But before we get to our guest, I just want to take the time to, mention who these individuals are that are with our special guest. So, of course, it's a KP here, Kenton Perrin, but you can call me KP. That's what friends call me. We also have Miss Shay, all right. TB Entertainment,
Die.
Twice Bless Entertainment. You can hit her up for anything to do with music, right? Whether it's singing or even getting in touch with the musicians or whatever your musical needs are. You can touch base with her. Normally, we have on here Mr. Lamar. He's not here with us today. Shout outs to Lamar. He's our tech man. He normally makes things happen and go right. And we normally have Tia with us as well, but Tia is not here with us either. But they'll be back. You'll see them jump in and out. They have a lot of things doing. Um, just remember, you can follow us on when it comes to our show here. You can follow us on Facebook. It's scrolling there, blackbuzz.to. You can follow us on IG, blackbuzz.to. You can also follow us on YouTube, right? We're on YouTube, blackbuzz.to. Am I correct, Shay?
Yes.
If I mess up, you gotta let me know.
No,
Um, so that's where we are. That's who we are. And I'm going to take the time now to introduce our special guest with us. Her name is Miss Morgan. Miss Morgan, I'm pulling up your full name here, Miss Morgan. Miss Morgan Blackman. There
Yes.
we go, Miss Morgan Blackman.
Yeah.
Welcome to Black Buzz. But hold before you say anything, let me just take the time to give a brief intro as to who you are in our bio.
All right, take it away.
All right. So this is her bio. Miss Morgan Blackman is a holistic wealth coach whose mission is to bridge the gap between money and wellness. As the founder of Holistic Bucks, she helps millennial women who tend to avoid their finances become financially secure and build the confidence they need in order to have full control of their financial future. She has been a do it yourself investor for the past 4 years and has been involved in multiple financial markets, with stocks being the most significant of her success. Her lifelong goal is to build wealth and to attain financial freedom so that she can live her best life. We know about the best life.
Yes. I
we
agree.
don't, we're not going to call any songs on here, right? Buy back time and continue to help women do the exact same. She's on Instagram, and well, we'll display her social media
Mhm.
information, Medium, of course, all the different things here in terms of connecting with her. And she's here with us today. Welcome, Miss Morgan. Welcome,
Well, thanks for having me.
man. Thanks for coming, and thanks for accepting our invitation.
Of course. Yeah.
On a platform like this, we like to just let people know how they can reach people like you.
Hmm.
You get the opportunity to tell us a little bit of what you do, and how we can help this your career, or your me being an entrepreneur and a black person, a black business,
Yes.
take off a bit more.
Yeah. Appreciate it.
No worries. So give us a little bit about your background before you actually go into what you do.
Mhm. Yeah, so I've been investing, like you had said earlier, for the past 3 to 4 years. I
Hmm.
started off in university, third year university. I had a really good friend. We're still good friends to this day. And she was regularly like seeing a financial advisor. We're both the same age, and I found it quite interesting because I know, people in their, young, early years, early 20s, our focus isn't primarily on our finances, right? Like it's very short term. We're not really thinking about the long term. It's like, how can we live our best life now with and really living our best life now is, living above our means and all the societal pressures to show off and to, take these large expensive trips off our credit card and or at least that's what I was doing. So I had a very skewed idea of what I guess good financial literacy and responsibility looked like at the time. And so, yeah, I would sort of just ask her questions like, how are you seeing a financial advisor? Like, what money do you have to be seeing a financial advisor at this time? And she was like, no, I would just, save whatever money I made in the summer with my part-time job. And I would just hate seeing my money sit in a savings account. And so she wanted to know how she can have her money be put into some sort of investment vehicle and have her money sort of just grow on its own, right? And so, like I always say, it's really good to ask questions and to surround yourself with people who are where you want to be, right? Or align yourself with people that have similar values and goals. And, she was one of the closest friends that I had that always sort of would, look ahead into her future, how she could build wealth for herself, how she could establish herself in her career and in society. And so, yeah, like I would always just, be very inquisitive. And so she was, very gracious to pass on information that, her financial advisor would tell her. And so she said, yeah, he's teaching me about this investment product called a GIC. And you put your money into this GIC and, by the end of the year, maybe you have, maybe there's 2 or 3% interest growing on it compared to you having your money in a regular savings. And it's like next to nothing. You're just growing pennies. And yeah, like by the end of the year, I'll get like a little extra $100, $200 back. And just even the idea of having like a little bit of money grow for you on its own without you having to exchange time for it was just like mind blowing. And I was like, oh, I really want to learn like more about this. And so I always say like she sort of planted the seeds, right? And sort of gave me that idea. And from there I started to, everything else was self-taught, right? Just really immersing myself in books and educational resources on how to invest, just mimicking successful investors already and what they did in their journey and how they got to where they were. And yeah, like my background, I went to university initially for international development. So I always knew like I wanted to
Which university was this?
Sorry?
You said you went to university. Which university? What's the name of it?
I went to Guelph University.
Okay. Yeah, we just want to, it's Canadian content. I want to give them a
shout. Got to bring it down a notch here. Yes. So yeah, I went to Guelph and I initially went in for like sciences and stuff. And then I realized I really just want to make like an imprint on this world. And I eventually just switched over into international development as my full major. And the reasoning behind that is I always knew that like I want to serve others and to uplift people's lives, whether it's a specific community, whether it's to empower women. That's just where my heart lies, just making the world a better place. I didn't exactly know like how it would look like. And fast forward to today, I've been able to blend that like passion and love that I have for investing and blending it with my passion to also serve, right? And that's how I was able to blend in the two and become a wealth coach for women. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm also going to put myself in this category on this question I'm asking here, Morgan. Mm-hmm. In terms of, you're a Black person, you're in the financial arena. Mm-hmm. It's not something that we have Black people in there, especially, the new generation coming up now. They're very much into investing, stock, all things, money, Yeah. And they're really taking a gander into what they have and what they can do, basically trying to break cycles.
Yes.
So help us to navigate, what you do, how you do it, and how we can understand it a little bit better in terms of getting ourselves together, right? to
Yeah.
make moves and to live our best life, as you're saying.
Yes. Yeah. So one, there shouldn't be any shame or guilt in not knowing this information because it's
Right.
obviously not taught, right? It's
Mhm.
to the majority of people. But it is something that you can. It's out there. The resources are out there. You really have to do your due diligence and go out there and find it. Um,
Mhm.
and what I think it's really important, just to piggyback off on what you just said, like generational wealth, right, which is something that is missing within the Black community. Just we have white people who I think 75% of them own homes, right? Whereas like Black people, maybe like 40% of us own homes, right? So it's how do we acquire assets? How do we invest or maybe immerse ourselves in these financial markets to have our money work for us in the long term so that, we can create that generational wealth. And for me, generational wealth is important because, for example, you want to set your children up for success. So when we think about an education fund, right?
Mhm.
A lot of the times, like my parents especially, like couldn't afford to pay for my education. So I had to work on paying out that $20,000, $40,000 off in debt, right? Of course, for other people, that's maybe a luxury or a privilege that they already have where they go into school and it's already paid off for them. But with Black people, we don't have access to that, or we haven't been taught in order, how to grow our money and create that ripple effect. So for me, that's really important, closing the gap and not feeling like it's not for Black people, that like it's some huge conquest that is beyond us. It's like, no, we can do it. It's just, what kind of role models do we have in our community? What sort of information is going around and how important is it to us, right? I think a lot of it is just like, it's that nearsightedness is like, we're only sort of looking at the now and the situation that we're in now and not looking ahead, like where we want to be in the future. And it's big. That happens to communities that are oppressed because we're in survival mode, right? It's just like, I need to feed my kids. I need to, go out there and work and hustle and do all these things, but then we're not looking at like the larger picture.
Right.
And so it's sort of expanding and going beyond like just the basics. And just finding ways to, because for me, like more money is, more power, obviously. And I
Right.
think people listen to those who have the money and have the power. And that's why Black people are so behind. We don't have that, right? As much times as we go out there, we march in the streets for like justice. If we're not calling the shots in terms of the structures and the systems that are already established, like we're not really going to get that far, right? So, and even like when we could probably talk about it a little bit later, but when we talk about like group economics and, supporting Black businesses so that we can create wealth in our communities and have it circulate within our communities. Because I forgot what the number was, but it's like, I think in other communities, like money circulates like 100 times. And then when it comes to Black people, it's like once or something like that, right?
Right.
So,
Right.
But yeah, so one big reason why investing is important, because I think a lot of people understand, the whole idea of saving, and saving is important.
Break down investing for us. Like when you say investing, what do you mean by that?
Investing is putting your money into some sort of investment vehicle that has interest working for you. So that your
Okay.
money is, yes. Because right now we live in a capitalist system where there's money working against us. We have inflation, we have the increase of prices in goods, we have taxes, we have all these things that are working against our money.
Mhm.
But there are vehicles where we can put our money into that is keeping up with inflation or surpassing it, right? Which allows us to grow wealth. And that was one thing that I was going to get to, because with savings, a lot of people know like that's just the right thing to do. You're supposed to save, but I don't think people understand why saving is important.
Mhm.
And the reason why saving is important is because of inflation. Because you can have your money sitting in a regular savings account, earning no interest. But then a big thing that people have is debt. You have credit card debt that's like 18, 20% that's working against you. So you have money in your savings. I mean, the value of the dollar is decreasing by the second, by the hour, every day because of inflation. So I think most countries, they try to keep the inflation rate at around like 2.5%, right? So if your money is not in a vehicle that is growing at 2.5%, you're falling behind, right?
Right.
So that's how we create this wealth gap. We have the rich get rich, the poor get poor, because things are getting expensive, but then people's wages aren't increasing, right? They're staying the same. We're falling behind. So you want to make sure you have your money in any kind of vehicle that is gaining 2.5% interest or more.
How do you, sorry,
Yeah.
how, because my mom used to be a financial advisor,
Yeah.
so some of the stuff you're saying, I heard it, I was raised with it. How do you get around the typical Black fear? And I'm talking about from a career
Yes.
point of view, because a lot of parents, a lot need so much debt for their children because we're dealing with the here and now. I have rent, I have groceries, I have your school fee, and that's it. And then when you come to them and say, hey, here's an opportunity for you to put $100 a month into something. Me, I don't trust that here. And one big, how do you get around that?
Yeah.
As a and especially being a Black financial advisor with a Caribbean background.
Yes.
How do you speak for your own people? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and like that's the sad part. Like there are going to be people that maybe aren't willing to listen. Like it's very hard to change people's belief sets, right? So if people are set in stone about, money is just this thing that you consistently have to chase and work hard for, and like it's just very hard for people to see outside of that box and to think bigger. I don't really know what to say to that. It's and I feel like it's a cultural thing too. Like even just talking to my own parents, it's like, what do you know? You're young. Like, what do you know about working hard and money and surviving? Like, or sometimes some people think it's like, oh, it's too late for me. Like learning to do these things, I should have done it way back when I was younger. I had the energy and the time, and they think it's something that's hard to learn when it's really not, right? Like,
if a regular person like me comes to you now, and because you're in your bio, it says that your wealth coach.
Yes.
His mission is to bridge the gap between money and wellness.
Yes.
Right. So I want to get to wellness. I may or may not have any money, but I want to get to wellness.
The wellness side of things.
Well, how would you assess me, or how would it start in terms of helping me to get myself together financially?
It's a lot. It's more so like it's definitely mindset work, and whenever I work with my clients, like that's pretty much the base and the foundation of starting your financial journey. Because if you have these limiting beliefs, like I said, about money, then you're not going to be able to progress. And if you have all these external circumstances that are holding you back, right? Like your environment, what type of environment are you living in that, doesn't allow you to thrive? You have people that are negative and toxic around you that are bringing you down, that won't allow you to go out there to learn, to expand, right? And to absorb this type of knowledge. Are you someone that thinks, I think for me, it comes down a lot to just like the belief sets that we have around money, that plays a bigger part. So example, sometimes and you probably know this too, Pastor, when we talk about, money is the root of all evil, right? And
the good book says the love of it.
The love of it, yes. Okay, exactly, right? But a lot of people will see that and being, and think, oh, well, I don't really want to have money. Being poor is actually just, being poor is righteous.
Righteous, yeah.
Right? Being poor is righteous. You've heard those things. And I feel like sometimes those belief sets are what keep us limited, because what we subconsciously think actually manifests into our reality. So if we think, oh, being rich is, or, having a lot of money is evil, then I don't want it, right? And we'll find ways in our everyday life, and we'll behave in ways that will keep us from attaining money and have it come into our lives, right? So there's, it's I'm really big on like mindset and our beliefs and energy, and like what we put out there is what comes back, right? But of course, like other things too, like just taking care of yourself. I feel like a lot of the times when we make financial decisions, we're making them out of places of fear and anxiety and stress, right? Like, I don't think I've ever seen people who tend to live, example, like paycheck to paycheck. They're constantly stressed, right? They're constantly like in a frenzy, like running around, and they don't create space for them to meditate, to think about, what they're about to do, or even giving them the space to even educate themselves, right? They don't have time for that. It's like, oh, I have this to do, like, this fear, I have to survive. And so really, like, I mean, mental health is a big thing, even in the Black community, right? Because I feel like if you're someone who suffers from anxiety, depression, and you're not getting help for that, then you're not going to be able to go after certain goals, right? You're not going to be able to pay attention to your finances and see what it is I need to change, what it is I need to shift, in order to make progress. So yeah, there's like different layers, different aspects to it. I feel like
we understand the layered nature
yeah,
of what you're saying
yeah,
in terms of folks and their finances. But I come to you, I'm a worker. I'm not used to saving, and I
mm,
don't know, how would you walk me through it? Like,
how do I
what
do
you would
it?
say, Penton, do you have this or do you have that?
Yeah, yeah. I
What
think
are some of the things that you would ask me or say to me?
yeah, main things. One, like definitely like where's your mindset at? Like how do you make financial decisions? What's
Okay.
going on in other areas of your life that may be affecting how you deal with your finances?
Right.
Because it's a holistic perspective, right? Like I said,
Correct.
it could be
Correct. Correct.
you have family members around you that are, weighing you down or always constantly asking you for money, right? And you don't know how to say no to them and set boundaries. So you're not able to progress because you're always filling up someone else's needs before yours, right? Your own financial needs. So even like it can get down to stuff like that. But then next I would say
Is
is
sorry to interrupt, but is this approach in terms of looking at finances, is this like a new way of looking at it, or is it prevalent in your world where
I,
individuals?
yes. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, yeah, it is. I think a lot of times people, yeah, like I don't think you'd go to a financial advisor and they would talk about this side of things, right? It's mostly just
They don't care.
no, they don't talk about it. They just talk about like the practical things, like oh, like let me like let's budget and let's strategize and create a budget and set a goal and have you work towards it. But then they're not asking you like what's going on in your life. Why are you even making these financial decisions, right? For people, example, who like to overspend, why are you overspending? A lot of the times they're overspending because they're filling voids, right? What are these voids that you're filling? Maybe this goes back into your childhood, right? Um, or maybe it's just the way that society has conditioned you, or just societal pressures to fit in, right? This fear of missing out. Like this person has this nice car, and having a nice car denotes that you have wealth, and so you want to go out there and put yourself in debt to, like, so it's like all these different things. But really, like what I would tell someone is I would get to the root of the issue, because the root is not just that you're in debt. It's like, why are you in debt? What caused you to get into debt? Then once we go through that, we navigate that, then we move into the more practical things. So I would look at how are you budgeting, right? How are you managing cash flow? How are you recognizing what's coming in, what's going out? Maybe there are things that you are paying for that you don't necessarily need to, right? You think that they're needs, but they're actually wants.
Right. Right.
A lot of people do that, right? Like you don't maybe need that $80 gym membership or that subscription, and you can actually maybe save a little $50, $100 here every month and put that into a savings, right? So that's like the more practical side of things. And then of course, I tend to, this is like my step by step. So I start with mindset. We delve into the root of your issues and like why you're making these financial decisions. Then we move into like budgeting.
But what in the description and in the bio, I didn't. Maybe we
Yeah,
didn't.
you don't get all of that.
Yeah, we didn't get the. Did you? Was this an additional training from school? Like or did you just pick it up along the way? Like that's what I'm saying. I didn't.
Yeah, well, it's just like some of it is just life, right? Like just
Right.
my experiences and how I've started my journey with money and what else I had to tweak and fix in order to
Right.
be successful at it. And yeah, so like, I mean, most of my success has been through investing, but I do recognize that a lot of people aren't even at the stage to invest right now, right? Like, I
Mhm.
think maybe out of like 100% of people, maybe only 30%, 20% of people are ready to invest. The rest of them are still like, maybe, in survival mode, in very toxic, negative situations where they're not able to even think straight about their money. And then you have people that are like, they just don't know how to budget. They don't know how to set up a system. They don't understand like really how to save. You have some people who are like working towards paying off their debt. And then you have people who are, maybe trying to build up an emergency savings and have like a security blanket set to the side. Like people are at like different stages. And so I recognize that and I want to help people throughout that whole process. So no matter which stage you're at in your journey, I'm able to help you, right? But ideally what I want to do is get women to the place where, okay, cool. Like I've paid off my debt. I'm able to build up a savings, a healthy savings. I have this system that's working for me, that's good, it's effective. And, I've strategized on how I'm going to get to certain financial goals. And now I want to know like how to build wealth. How can I put my money into a vehicle, into a system that's now working for me? So I always say like investing is the last stage. It's like the icing on the cake almost.
Right.
And of course, like that's my favorite thing to talk. Like that's my favorite thing to talk about and to teach. But I recognize a lot of people aren't really there yet, or a lot of people do think that they're there and they realize that they're not. Right? Like some people want to invest, but like their mindset's not there. Or some people want to invest, but their savings isn't where I'd like it to be. So even when it comes to investing has a level of risk to it. That you don't want to be putting your savings into your investment. So even something like that, I separate into the two. So, you should have an emergency savings for, large unexpected expenses, things of that nature. And just in case, what if your investments go south and go sour? Which if I'm teaching you, it wouldn't. But ideally, like you can put your money into something, and especially if you're investing, you don't know what you're doing, you can actually lose money. And then you don't have a savings. Now you're back in debt. Now you're back in a worse off situation. So it's like making sure that like all your ducks are in a row, things are in order. We're not skipping steps.
Okay.
Yeah. And so that's why I always say like investing is like the last stage I say on your financial journey. And that's really where you see most of the results, right? That's where like money's starting to work for you. You're investing towards your retirement, you're building wealth, all of that great stuff.
How long could something like this take in terms of doing, especially because you're taking a holistic approach, right?
Yeah. So
and you can use, you don't have to call names or be too specific or anything like that. You've dealt with clients, and you can vary their situation and just give us an example of what.
Yeah. It's a lifelong journey, but I think like what I tend to do in my coaching, it's 3 months, so it's very short, it's condensed, but really what I'm doing is I'm helping you to build that foundation and teaching you the system. So even though we don't implement everything all at once, some things may take, if you want a $1 million retirement, you're not going to get that in 3 months, right? That's going to take years for you to build, but I'm giving you the knowledge and the tools and building out that system for you in a way that's effective, because how it's going to look for one person is going to look different to you. So I tailor it, I customize it to however your situation looks like, and just give you the blueprint and the framework on how to get there. And there are certain things that like you'll instantly start to see, like, building up your savings, having more money go into your savings. Maybe you can even start investing. It just depends on what stage you're at. But by the end of it, my goal, like by the third month, you're already investing, you're putting your money into some sort of investment vehicle. But in terms of like it's gonna look different for everyone. Like maybe you want to save up money to put down on a house. Like you probably won't see that with me working with you, depending on where you're at in that journey. But we're building out the framework, the step-by-steps on how to actually do that and getting your money in order, like preparing it, I guess, so that you can actually see it through. So I would say it's different to depending, it depends on where someone is at on their financial journey and what goals they're working towards. But ideally, like by the end of the 3 months, you do see some significant results in terms of your saving, or maybe you're in the mindset part of your mindset part of the journey, and you just want to gain the confidence to like know what you're doing with your money. You have a poor relationship with it. Okay, cool. Let's get you out of there. But yeah, it's really to take people through the whole process and give you the tools and the skills and the resources on how to do that, so that like I never want you to have to come back and work with me again after 3 months. Like you should know after 3 months how you're gonna do it, right? And like everything that I give you, the knowledge that I provide, like you have it, like you have with you for the rest of your life, right? Like you'll never, you know what you have to do, and it's like I have that system. Because the great thing about systems is that like once you build that strong foundation, like you're good, right? It's just to build. It's now just to build. So I give people that foundation, and then you build and take it to where you want it to go, and it can go in so many different ways. But that's
Oh, so go ahead.
Have you ever met somebody who they already started this journey on their own, and then you've seen their financial profile and you're like in shock because like whoever was dealing with their stuff before like did complete foolishness? Have you ever met anybody or had any clients like that? They're doing the investment, they're following, and then they came to you like, hey, maybe you can look at this, and you saw like so many loopholes. Have you ever met anybody like that?
Yeah. And like with the clients that I have now, no, but I do get it a lot of the times where people will talk to me and they'll be like, oh yeah, like I don't need help with the other stuff. I just need help with investing. Like I'm good with like the mindset. I'm good with budgeting. And then like, you're right. Like as we start going through things, they'll be like, oh, like I actually don't really have a budgeting system. And I'm like, but you told me that you know how to you know what I mean? So it's like, sometimes people do get far ahead of themselves and we realize like, yeah, there's some loopholes. Maybe we do need to get back here. And yeah, things definitely show up. And even like I always say, even if it's not regarding your finances, like sometimes certain limiting beliefs or belief sets that you have like within other areas of your life can creep into the way that you deal with your money, right? Like sometimes you don't see that the direct correlation until we start talking and working together. And we're like, oh, well, like this is probably what's holding you back in this area and all of that stuff. But yeah, I definitely do see loopholes and no one's exempt. And even for someone like me, like I'm constantly, like I have my system built out. I know what I have to do, but sometimes there are times where it's like, maybe I got to work on my mindset, right? Like I think for me, even this year with like starting my business, you know, the whole idea of like getting clients and, you know, there's been so much limiting beliefs around that. And like that ties into like how I make my money, right? So sometimes it's not just exactly just dealing with money itself, but it's just our other areas of our lives that sort of create barriers and blocks that we otherwise wouldn't notice unless yeah.
What's the age group of the individuals you normally work with?
I work with women who are between the ages of 25 to 35, so like millennials, like working class professional, working women. But I mean, ideally, like anyone can really come to me. Like sometimes I have 50-year-old women that like are part of like my community or they want to work with me one-to-one. So, but ideally, like those are the people that like I look to help because I'm a reflection of them, right? Like I was, I'm 25 now. When I started investing, I was like 22. So I tend to help women in that age range and group. But it's interesting because sometimes you have women in that age group that like don't care about it, right? And so that's why like I'm here to like kind of raise awareness and get women to understand like how important it is to understand your finances and to gain that financial literacy and to start thinking about our future, right? Yeah, from now.
And in terms of the cultural group, do you have a lot of Black folks that come to you? Do you have individuals?
Yeah,
or in a mixed situation where you have people from all walks?
I have a mix. So I wouldn't say it's hard. I feel like within the Black community, there's a lot of mindset shifts.
Mm-hmm. What do you mean my mindset shifts?
Created like there's a lot of like that survival poverty mindset. Like I don't have enough, like a lot. So it's very hard to start women in this sort of community to like start thinking about their finances and taking it seriously because it's more so like it's just like a scarcity complex, right? Like I just don't have enough. Like where am I going to find money to work with you? Where, you know, instead of thinking like, how can I invest in myself? How, you know, do I make short-term sacrifices now, but to benefit me in the long run in the future? I'm not like generalizing, but that's just what I tend to sort of see. Like, you know, I've hopped on calls with people and had consultation calls with a lot of Black women. And sometimes I feel like it's very hard for them to take that step, to take that jump and to really trust themselves and take their finances seriously. But yeah, like I work with a mix of all walks of life. My business is, I mean, it's online. So for the most part, like I have worked with a couple women in Canada, in the States, even sometimes in the UK. The great thing about
it's not just local. Okay.
No, it's not just local. And like that's the great thing about money because it's, I mean, currency, like, you know, like money's just a universal thing, right? It's
how does that even, what did they just reach out to you on your social media platform? And it starts like literally that's how it has happened.
That's a great thing because like I build out my business on like Instagram and all these different social media platforms. So it wasn't like a brick and mortar type setup, right? Not like a financial advisor where like you work at a bank and it's like all your clients are going to be, you know, within that region or area. It's sort of like I have the option and the flexibility to work with like as many people as I want. And I created it in that way for that purpose because I want to help as much people as I can. Right.
Let me see if I can display while you're talking here. while I fiddle around. I don't know what the display is like you can see it there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the three. So my three pillars. Yes. My
So this is what? This is your is this
This is
website is
actually
actually my
her
brand
website.
that I've created.
oh, this is a website. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So I have like my about page, my services, all
Okay.
that great stuff. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I actually just finished the website maybe on Friday, so I think it looks good. And this is actually the program that I'm just promoting. I just started promoting today. So this is the 3 month coaching program that I have where you get to work with me one on one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Miss Morgan Blackman. She's dealing with the holistic side of investing.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Okay, okay. And of course you're also on Instagram as well. And we did share that.
Yeah. Yeah. So my main home, I guess I would say is Instagram. And then of course you can find me. My second home is like my mailing list. So I write like newsletters every Wednesday. I drop those out with like extra wealth tips and just like what's going on in the finance world. So that's would be a great thing for you to like plug into. You sign up for my mailing list, kind of just stay in the know on what's happening.
What's it like? What has it been like? Sorry, Shay. What has it been like for you as a black person, what you're doing?
Oh, it's interesting sometimes. Like, I think I
Because
feel like
you say you have a mixed clientele, right? But
yes,
so you
yeah,
don't necessarily have predominantly black folks coming to you. But what about you as a black
as
person,
a black person,
especially in light of all the social unrest that we've seen and the highlighting of blackness, black strength, black businesses, and all these different things?
yeah. For me, it's important, and especially even around that time with the death of George Floyd, like just speaking into like black economics. So I try to bring in like a colored vision into to like talking about money. Actually,
Yeah.
even the post that I made today, I was actually talking about black wealth and generational wealth. Um, but yeah, I think for me, it's interesting. I feel like entrepreneurship in the black community can be a bit lonely. Like I don't think I know a lot of other, and maybe that's like my own undoing, but especially in the finance industry, I don't think there's a lot of black women that are in it.
Hmm.
Um, there's a lot of black men. Of course, there's like a lot of white men, who take up this space. Um, so yeah, like it's a bit interesting, but I have been. I think what I did the other day, I had an IG live investing series, and
Hmm.
I had initially posted it in the Black Toronto community group, and I got a lot of response. Maybe that's how Shay found me out, and I had a lot of people respond to it, which was really good. So I have a lot of black women now who have like joined me on my Instagram, and I try to create like a community out of that, which I did, and it's been going well. But yeah, I think it's and through doing that, I've now like found other women who are maybe like black financial advisors that I can like bounce ideas off of. I found
Right.
a lady who's she's actually an investor herself, which is rare. Like I've never talked to another black woman about like investing like that, other than like my good friend that taught me back at university, and yeah, she made a post or a story about investing like $40,000 the other day, I think in Tesla. She was able to like triple that. And I was like, oh my gosh, I need to talk to you. Like this is, and so we actually hopped on a call the other day. We were talking for like 2 hours, whatever, about like our journeys and how we got to where we were. So I do try to make that effort. But even me and her, like we were talking about it, and it's like, it's very hard to like get people to open up their eyes and to see the importance in like investing and just getting right with their money. And yeah, like obviously like I'm hoping to change that. That's why I'm out here, I'm talking. I hope like little black girls and black women can see me doing it, and it will sort
Right.
of be like, oh, like if she can do it, then I should do it too. Or like, what am I missing here, so just trying to stay present and showing up as much as possible, and whoever resonates with me and aligns with with my mission and what I want to teach, then they'll be there, right, to hear it out and to implement it for themselves. And
Yeah, I think Shay wanted to ask a question.
Yeah. On your I saw your testimonial where you said you were able to grow 5,000 into 25.
Yeah.
So how long was that process? Like
Yeah,
it
that
was
was
2 years, 3 years? Pardon?
3 years.
And
So,
sorry, is it was one particular investment or you split your funds?
okay, yeah, so I'll explain it. So it took me a whole year. It was 2017. That was the year that my friend had even taught me about it. So it took me a year before I was comfortable in actually like investing. So that's why I tell people like it's not something you want to just jump in, like really take the time to understand what you're doing. I had told myself I was gonna save up $5,000. So I saved up that much of money, and I had the idea to. This is something that I teach people when it comes to investing. Like you need to like diversify your investments. So you don't want to put all your money and just buy one stock, because if that stock goes down, then you lose all your money. So you want to have your money in different things, different types of investment products. So when I first went in, I put three. I looked into three marijuana companies, and I put my money into three marijuana stocks. KP's over here like.
I understand. You're mixed. You're mixed, so we know where that side comes from.
Don't judge us. Don't judge us.
I'm not condoning it. I'm not endorsing it to smoke or whatever. I
The
think
medical side. We know.
yes, that was the time where Canada was just about to legalize, marijuana, and I saw it as something. This is something that's going to be very profitable, right? Like if you think about the amount of people that are starting to smoke marijuana, or just comparing it to like the alcohol market, I just knew it was going to be something that would take off, which it did initially in the first year or so, and then now it's not doing so well. But I got in at the right time. I got in when like it was booming. People were making investments in it. And so I had put my money, I put $1,000 into three different companies, and then I put the $2,000 into like mutual funds at the time. So mutual funds were just like whatever they were composed of. And from there, I think that year I grew my investments, like I doubled it. It went from like $5,000 to $10,000. So those marijuana stocks did good, and then I pulled out like after a year, which was good timing because after that it started to kind of go down. And then I started putting my money and reinvesting into other things. I started playing around. So like I put my money into some tech stocks and like all these different industries. And I still do that and just put my money into different areas. And so, yeah, over time, I've been able to grow that into like $30,000 and more. And I think the reason why I feel like I have the authority, I guess, or not the authority, but I'm confident enough to speak on it and to teach women about investing is because the average investor sees between 7 to 10% returns on their investment. So if you're regularly, like if you go to see a financial advisor, they'll advise you to put your money into like a mutual fund. Now we have these investment products called exchange traded funds, which are like ETFs, which have lower fees. So a lot of people are starting to put their money into ETFs now. And nowadays, like the modern day of investing, you don't have to see a financial advisor. They have these things set up now called robo-advisors. So you've probably heard of like Wealth Simple, where you sort of just put your money into this company and they like kind of automatically invest your money for you. And these companies also have like hired financial advisors as well. But yeah, like it's just...
Sorry, isn't that a higher risk?
No, robo-advisors aren't. So the product is a higher risk. It depends. Like when you go to see a financial advisor, most of the time they're selling you mutual funds, and mutual funds they're lower risk, but the fees are higher. And then with ETFs, they're higher risk, but the fees are lower. So you make more money in the long run. And that's something like I can kind of get into a bit too, like investing and risk. And that's probably a big reason why people are kind of scared to invest, because they think it's something where it's just an opportunity to lose money, right? It's just like a gambling game, but it doesn't have to be like that or look like that. So yeah, where was I? Lost train of thought. So average investor sees like between 7 to 10% interest on the returns, which is good. So say like you put $1,000 in 1 year, by the end of the year, you're guaranteed to see between $70 or $70 to $100 that you've earned back in return, right? But for me, over the past 3-4 years, I've been able to see 36% returns on my investments, like consistently. So I would say on average, so some years have looked better than others. So some years I've like, that first year, like I doubled my money. So that was like 100% return, right? And then other years, maybe I've seen like 30%, 40%. But on average, if I divide it between like, since I've started, it's 36%, which is like almost 3 times the average investor. And I actively choose my own stocks. So you have 2 types of investors. You have most people, they're passive investors. So they go to a financial advisor, they have someone do it for them. But an active investor is someone who does it themselves. Like I go in there, I choose my own investment products. I build my own portfolio. I don't have a financial advisor that's helping me. So I think that's the type of investing that people are starting to do. They want to like go pick their own stocks and like get rich quick. And that's just been the trend lately. But I actually recommend people do stick to becoming more passive investors. So whether that's
I was about to say, I mean, you know, I don't know enough about that world, so I definitely would need somebody to help me navigate it.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's a risk because like for me, I have a TFSA which I do invest. And at I think it was April. And when I just decided, let me look at it, and I realized I lost a pretty chunk because and then he was explaining it to me, and in my head I was trying to understand it, but then I said, as I grew up in a house with a financial advisor, so my mom was like, yeah, it happens when something happened to the market, you have to expect a loss. Like sometimes it could be in the thousands, sometimes it could be in the hundreds, and yes, it hurts anyway, but then you're gonna make it back up in the long run. So like that's where most of my questions come from, the fact that I do practice it on my own. I've never decided to do it like you said, you do it directly for yourself, because I think it's best if somebody else deals with it they would know more about it. They would be able to tell me this is good, this is bad. But then now with how the market is going, all of a sudden if you look on the internet, you're seeing people saying what to do with your TFSA, which stocks, and it's a whole bunch of information coming on. Then all of a sudden you go on YouTube and see that the company you just mentioned, Simple, it's all over now. So it's just like, is this going to be a good thing of a surge or a bad thing? What from a financial advisor point of view, what exactly do you think is happening? Because not everybody wants to do it on their own, and as KP said, it's a risk, a bigger risk, wouldn't it be?
Yeah. So people make investing seem complex when it's not. So active investors, someone like me, we're really trying to beat out the market. So we're trying to see more than the 7 to 10% return on our investments, right? Like we don't want to get rich quick, get rich slow. It's like people want to get rich quick. They want to bet on this one company to like get them millions of dollars within like the next year, 5 years. Which
I missed my opportunity with Zoom. So
it's never too late. You never know, right? Like Tesla, for example. Tesla was what, like for 200? I remember when I was trading Tesla, it was like $300. Now they went up to like 2,000, right? And now they actually split their stock to make it more affordable. But like you never know. Sometimes you think it's going to be capped at a certain point, and like you never know. Like 2 years from now, Zoom can go to $1,000, whatever. It's for me, like really what people like. You have to know the reason why you're investing. Most people are investing for their retirement, right? Because however that may look like, even doing the calculation, there's so much online calculators out there. Because my biggest fear is that people aren't saving enough for their retirement, and then you retire, and then you realize I don't have enough money to just like live off of this savings, right? Or some people don't even have a savings to live off of. And then you're still like 75 working at Walmart or a grocery store. Like, when you go to the store, you see those old ladies, and it's like, you don't want to be that. You don't want to have to continue working for the rest of your life, right? You want to get to a point where you can stop, you can rest. And it doesn't mean stop doing what you love. If you're in a job where like you love to teach, and you can still teach, but at least you have that luxury, and like, if today were going to be my last day, I could quit and have enough money to sustain me until maybe the day I die, right? That's really the goal. That's what like I'm trying to work at, right? So most people have the goal of going into investments to retire. I think there was like this goal of having like this $1 million retirement. Supposedly now, like that's not even going to be enough. Maybe like 2 million. But if you really just like every month put away $500 into a mutual fund, whatever your financial advisor sets up, or a robo advisor like Wealth Simple now, and you put it on like aggressive, like you put it into an account that's going to see more returns down the road. Easily in the next 40 years, you'll be guaranteed to have $1 million. Like, it's really just that simple. You just set up the system, put in $500 every month, and like if you're seeing 7 to 10% return on your investments, which is what the average investor sees, then you should be good. But what most people want to do is like they want to start buying stocks and like individual companies, and like that's where it's like that's where the uncertainty comes into, right? So that's why I always say, like, stick to passive investing. If you have extra money, so if say you have like $2,000 to invest,
that's always the wise counsel, right? If you got that extra, then you
exactly, then play around with it. But the money that you really want, because you're trying to secure your retirement, you don't want to be playing around with that. So I would just go the safe way, put it into a passive vehicle, a passive investment vehicle, like a mutual fund or maybe an ETF with some robo advisors, and just wait it out. Just stay persistent. You can put in your little $500 every month, or maybe sometimes you get a bonus from work. You can put in a bit more, right? And I say $500 if you want to retire in 40 years. If you want to retire in 20 years, there's this thing now called FIRE, Financial Independence, Retire Early. And people are trying to put in as much money into their investments so that they can retire maybe at 40 or 50, right? Yeah. And they said have $2 million or $3 million. And so it's really up to you. And this is why I say, like, it's good to sit down now, especially being young. If you're like in your early 20s, think about it. Like, when do you want to retire? How much money do you have to put away now in order to see that $1 million, $2 million retirement, right? Crunch the numbers, work out the numbers, and then, like, you're set. But like, if you're not thinking about these things and like diddly-daddling, and then you realize you're 40 and you're like, oh shit, I haven't started saving, or I don't have investments, then it's gonna like, it's which, don't feel guilty, like that's most people, right? But now that you have the knowledge, like, what are you gonna do with it, right?
So in terms of following what your train of thought there, we got a few minutes left. I want to ask you, of course, I asked you about the social unrest situation. What about the coronavirus, the pandemic, and how has that affected you, affected your business, or how have you maneuvered or adjusted yourself?
Yeah. For my business, it actually hasn't done that much. Like I said, because my business is online, it's not like go brick and mortar, had to switch things around. I mean, with COVID, yes, there are going to be people who maybe aren't doing so well with their finances, people who are doing well, or at least are well off enough to still get help with their money.
Right.
So from a business perspective, I haven't seen anything, but I do know for clients or people that are out there that are struggling with COVID, or just want to put themselves in a better financial situation. Some tips that I have is like, I mean, earlier on when like COVID was at like its at its worst, just doing like a lot of negotiating with like maybe your insurance companies. Like, a lot of these companies were giving big breaks to people in their finances. So like, even like, maybe negotiating to lower your phone bill, or taking off the insurance off any of the the interest off of any of the debts that you have. Like, there are a lot of things you could have negotiated. Maybe not so much now, because I feel like we're slowly starting to get out of it. But when you're in the thick of it, and really like, this would just have been a really good time to start budgeting or setting up a budgeting system that's very effective, to see like where money's coming and going, how much you really want to save. I think this really put into perspective for people to have a savings. And this is something that I always stress and try to talk about, because I think there's this idea that saving is like not sexy, and it's like if I have to save, then that means I have to make sacrifices and I can't live my best life or enjoy life, right? And not something that people want to do. They see it as a chore, but how I see it is like, saving and building up a savings will allow you to invest, which is what's going to allow you to build wealth. So if you don't like saving, then like, you quote unquote can't ever get rich or be wealthy, right? Right. In a sustainable terms, right? Like, I'm not talking about like illegal money or whatever, however way you want to fund your life, right? But to have a sustainable wealth and for the long term, then you need to prioritize saving.
All right, so we're talking to Miss Morgan Blackman. She's the founder of Holistic Books. Holistic Bucks. You've been featured in like Medium, Mariposa Journals, Pod,
Some smaller things, yes.
the Windows Financial Summit 2020, Holisticism, Morning Magic Collective,
Hmm.
LRH Wellness, and of course on this platform.
Oh, I can add you guys. Thanks, Black. I'll add you guys too. Yes.
Yeah, no, thanks for coming on, and thanks for sharing, your experience with us. We've already put it out there that, folks can reach out to you through
Mhm.
on your website and also on Instagram,
Awesome.
right? Any we have like about 2 minutes
Yeah.
left, or
Last
yeah.
tips or advice.
Any yeah, parting advice, like
Um.
we're
mm,
out there. We're out here
yeah.
trying to do it for the community, do it for the people, right?
Yeah, yeah. Like I always like to give practical advice. So I think when it comes to like budgeting, savings, people don't tend to like to do it or they tend to avoid it, um,
Mm-hmm.
and they can't really get over that first hump in order to build wealth. So I would say automate your savings. Like if you don't have a system where like as soon as you get paid, money is like straight just going into your savings. So that like that's where budgeting really comes in. Seeing like after you pay off your fixed expenses like your rent and groceries, like the basic necessities, how much money do you have left over? And how much of that net income do you want to save? So I think what most people do is like we'll spend first, and then at the end of the month we're like, oh, how much money do I have left to save? And like you're doing it wrong. Like you want to prioritize yourself first. So whatever net income you get, you're gonna get paid. I don't know, $2,000 every 2 weeks. Then and your expenses, your expenses is like maybe like $1,000, right? You have $1,000 net income. What are you gonna do with that money, right? So most people we don't see it because like we don't budget, so our money just we go spending and buying all these different things, and then when it comes time to investing, we don't really know, or sorry, to save, we don't really know what to save. So instead, if you could say, you know what, I'm gonna put $500 maybe towards my savings, or maybe you have debt. You're like, I'm gonna put $300 towards my debt, $200 towards my savings, and then I'm gonna send this $500 into my spending account. And in that way, you're not sacrificing when you're saving. You can still spend and not feel guilty when you do spend because you already know that you put yourself first. You already saved for the month
Right,
or with
right.
that paycheck. So I always say automate your savings. That's the best way to budget. If you want to have all these other budgeting systems like a spreadsheet or like an app, you can also do that too. But I think that's like the easiest number one way to budget. Just automate your savings.
All right. Appreciate it, Mr. Morgan Blackman. Any parting words, Shay, or that's
No, anything after that, I'll talk to her after.
okay. All right. So we're off, folks. Remember, we are on YouTube. We are on Facebook, or Facebook page, right? Our Facebook page. There it is, Black Buzz. IG is blackbuzz.to. Definitely hit us up.
Yes.
Until next time, we're gonna sign off right now. Take care of yourself. Remember, still dealing with coronavirus. Wear your mask, wash your hands, social distance.
Yes.
All
Happy
right.
holidays, everyone.
All right. Take care.